First time here, or whether you've been coming for years, or even if you're just with us online today, and I shouldn't say just, we love our online viewers. We unconditionally welcome you as your
authentic self. We gather here today with intention to remember and practice
our values of interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice, with love at the center. Though we often fall short of these ideals, we do strive to continually grow as spiritual and moral beings. To that end, we recite a covenant each week, which is not a creed, but it's a promise we make to each other. We have a few announcements today. Number one, we do have our congregational meeting next Sunday after the service, and we will convene that meeting at the beginning of the service to make sure we have a quorum, and then we will be in recess for the service and finish the meeting afterwards. And this meeting is primarily to vote on our 2026 budget and to elect a member of the endowment committee to, I think Ray Rose is the one that's coming off. So, okay, let's see. I think Margaret Lucero wanted to make an announcement, but she is not here, so I'm going to make that announcement. Apparently, we're going to have a bake sale next Sunday, so actually, Kirk, yeah, could you go get her, please? Thanks. And while we're waiting for that, we are doing a drive for personal hygiene items for the months of December and January. And this is, these will, I can't remember, Lisa, where will they go? Will they go to the free store? Will they to the homeless community in general? And we're looking for items such as toothbrushes, toothpastes, little travel bottles of mouthwash, combs, travel size of shampoos, wet ones, wipes, anything you can think of that you might need on a trip out somewhere. Feminine hygiene items would be also welcome, and we will be collecting that every Sunday. We will have a basket out in the foyer to collect those, and if you have any other questions, Lisa Cuevas will be glad to answer that. Okay, Margaret is not there. Okay, we are going to have a bake sale. I'm not quite sure what all the details are, but in addition to the handcrafted items that you see out there for sale, we are going to have a bake sale, and you are encouraged to get with Margaret Lucero and ask her about she's coming. She's going to give us a more thorough announcement.
Sorry, only 2 weeks left, this week and next week, for the sale. So if you saw something you liked on the table, you need to snap it right up. Okay, we've had some good sales. We've already had sales this morning, so please get your items. Just to make it more interesting, next week we're going to add a bake sale. So if you have baked items that you can donate, please have them wrapped and priced, and I'll have a place for you to drop them off. Thank you.
I have an opening bid of $35 minimum
Well, maybe we need to do a food auction. Okay, I think that is all of our announcements for this morning. It's our custom in this church to offer visitors. Oh, we do have one more announcement, actually. I'd like to wish Ren Aldridge a happy birthday today. It's her birthday, their birthday. And that is an announcement. So Ren does a lot for us, and they're a lot of fun to be around. Okay. Now, it is our custom in this church to offer visitors and newcomers a chance to introduce themselves if they feel comfortable doing so. If it's your first time here, or you just feel ready to say hello after you've been here for a while, please stand as you are willing and able, or raise your hand, and Rin will actually bring the microphone to you so that our online visitors can get to know you too. Are there any visitors or newcomers that would like to introduce themselves today? Actually, we want to make sure that the people online can also get to know you.
We are Kim and David Brunson. We're from Springfield, Illinois. We're snowbirds. And we go to a Unitarian Universalist church in Springfield. And we're headed down towards Brownsville. We usually stay in South Padre Island, but our campground is closed for renovation, so we're staying at a private one. But we love Southern Texas.
Anyone else would like to introduce themselves?
Good morning, y'all. We are Keenan and Ariel, originally from Texarkana, Texas. Got stationed down here in March and just came to check it out this lovely morning, so appreciate y'all.
Welcome. We are so glad you're here joining us this morning. And we are glad you're here and hope to have coffee and conversation with you following the service. The service will now begin. Our opening words this morning are "We Gather" by Pat Uribe Lichty. We gather. We bring our sorrows, our disappointments, our failures. We gather for healing, for laughter, and to rejoice. We gather to find new ways of loving, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. We gather. Yes, always we gather, for it is in the gathering that we find hope. I'd like to invite Lily up to light our chalice as I share these words by Katie Romano Griffin. May the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our faith, connect us to all who have come before us, all who are with us in body and spirit, and all who are yet to come into being. May it serve as a reminder of our unity and connection across all time and space. Please rise in body or spirit to recite the affirmation of our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all we hold sacred. You may be seated.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there and telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their mind are getting so much resistance from behind. It's time we stop.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the streets, singing songs in a carrying sign. Most are saying hooray for our side. It's time we stopped. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep. Into your life it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the men come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Better stop.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop now, look that sound. Everybody look what's going down. Stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tess Cherry, your Religious Exploration Coordinator here at U2C3. Our story is titled Enemy Pie. And I don't know about you, but this is the season of pies. So let's find out what enemy pie is.
In the perfect summer, my dad helped me build a treehouse in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks, and I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been the perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood, right next door to my best friend Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline, and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend Stanley was. Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved into the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse, where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too. But he knew of a way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. "Tell you how? I'll show you how," he said. He pulled a really old recipe off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up and squinted at it. "Enemy pie," he said, satisfied. You may be wondering what exactly is enemy pie. I was wondering too. But Dad said the recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I decided it must be magic. I begged him to tell me something, anything. "I will tell you this," he said. "Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies." Now, of course, this got my mind working. What kind of things, disgusting things, would I put into a pie for an enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden, but he just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think I needed those. I gave him the gum I'd been chewing all morning. He gave it right back to me. I went out to play alone. I shot baskets until the ball got stuck on the roof. I threw a boomerang that never came back to me. And all the while, I listened to the sounds of my dad chopping and stirring and blending the ingredients of enemy pie. This would be a great summer after all. Enemy pie was going to be awful. I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell, or worse yet, what it must look like. But when I was in the backyard looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. And as far as I could tell, it was coming from our kitchen. I was a bit confused. I went to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie shouldn't smell good. But Dad was smart. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemies would never eat it, he said. I could tell he had made enemy pie before. The buzzer rang, and Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven. It looked like a plain old pie. It looked good enough to eat. I was catching on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out, or their breath stinky. Maybe it made bullies cry. I asked Dad, but he was no help. He wouldn't tell me a thing. But when the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. He talked quietly. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend the day with your enemy. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Of course I was. It sounded horrible. It was scary, but it was worth a try. All I had to do was spend one day with Jeremy Ross. Then he'd be out of my hair for the rest of my life. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me, waiting for me to say something. I was nervous. "Can you play?" I asked. He looked confused. "I'll go ask my mom," he said. He came back with his shoes in his hand. His mom walked around the corner to say hello. "You boys stay out of trouble," she said, smiling. We rode bikes for a while and played on the trampoline. Then we made some water balloons and threw them at the neighborhood girls. But we missed. Jeremy's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. He almost seemed nice. But of course, I couldn't tell Dad, since he had worked so hard to make this enemy pie. Jeremy Ross liked my basketball hoop. He said he wished he had a basketball hoop, but they didn't have room for one. I let him win a game, just to be nice. Jeremy Ross knew how to throw a boomerang. He threw it and it came right back to him. I threw it and it went over my house and into the backyard. When we climbed over the fence to find it, the first thing Jeremy noticed was my treehouse. My treehouse was my treehouse. I was the boss. If my sister wanted in, I didn't have to let her. If my dad wanted in, I didn't have to let him. And if Jeremy wanted in, "Can we go in?" he asked. I knew he was going to ask me that. But he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list, and enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But he did teach me to throw a boomerang, and he did have me over for lunch, and he did let me play on his trampoline. He wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said, but hold on. I climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us for dinner. We pretended we didn't hear him, and when he came to get us, we tried to hide from him. But somehow he found us. Dad made us macaroni and cheese for dinner, my favorite. It was Jeremy's favorite too. Maybe Jeremy Ross wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. I watched as he cut the pie into 8 thick slices. Dad, I said, it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood. I was trying to get his attention and trying to tell him that Jeremy Ross was no longer my enemy. But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just pretending. Dad dished up 3 plates, side by side, with big pieces of pie and giant scoops of ice cream. He passed one to me and one to Jeremy. Wow, Jeremy said, looking at the pie. My dad never makes pies like this. It was at that point that I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. Jeremy, don't eat it. It's bad pie. I think it's poisonous or something. Jeremy's fork stopped before reaching his mouth. He crumpled his eyebrows and looked at me funny. I felt relieved. I had saved his life. I was a hero. If it's so bad, Jeremy asked, then why has your dad already eaten half of it? I turned and looked at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. Good stuff, he mumbled through a mouthful, and that was all he said. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. Dad was laughing, Jeremy was happily eating, and neither of them was losing any hair. It seemed safe enough, so I took a tiny taste. Enemy pie was delicious! After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play on his trampoline in the morning. He said he'd teach me how to flip. As for enemy pie, I still don't know how to make it. I still wonder if enemies really do hate it, or if their hair falls out, or their breath turns bad. But I don't know if I'll ever get an answer, because I just lost my best enemy.
Not gonna lie, I kind of want some of that pie too right now. I would like to invite the young and young at heart to join me in RE.
After our meditation reading and time of silence, and when the music begins, all who would like to are invited to come up to the chalice table and light a candle representing a joy or sorrow you might be holding in your heart today. Please come up one at a time using the middle aisle. And if you're with us online today, please feel free to share your joys and sorrows in the chat feature. Out of a troubled world of expediency and selfish strife, we come to this place set apart for the renewal of vision. Great unity beyond all differences. Should our lives be narrowed by personal sorrow or tragedy, envision us with a sense of worth. Should we be weary of the diminishing purposes of community and the persistence of global conflict, envision us with your larger purpose. Should we feel lost upon Earth's lonely cosmic shore, envision us with joy and wonder. Uphold us when weak. Embrace us when broken. Transform us when partial. Restore us to your great unity, that we and the green earth and the cosmic law may become as one. Great unity, bless us now in this moment of worship with your commanding vision. I now invite you into a time of silent reflection. Our speaker today, Michael Causey, has been a member of this congregation for over 20 years. During that time, he has served our congregation in many roles, including youth advisor, stewardship campaign chair, and president. And he didn't put this in here, but I'm going to say it. He is a retiree from the Coast Guard and the Air Force, and we're enjoying our grandchildren and traveling these days. So please welcome Michael Causey.
Good morning, UUs. We're doing a short responsive reading today by the title of Daring for Peace. Your response will be in a different color than black. So, as we are confronted by chaos, surrounded by voices of disagreement, lured by the seduction of despair, when I volunteered to offer this message, I thought that it would be simple. After all, it's about two things that we cherish: love and unity. I also assured our worship team and others that it would not be about war, and it isn't. But we need context for clarity. Slide, please. "84 years ago today, the Japanese Navy attacked the U.S. Navy at Pearl Harbor. While addressing Congress the next day, President Roosevelt referred to 7 December as, quote, a date that will live in infamy. But this is not the case, because enemies are normally temporary. In this case, we recognized that the Japanese were utterly defeated and were no longer an enemy, and they were about to lose more people to starvation than they had lost to nuclear weapons. The laws of war insist that those who are conquered and occupied must be fed if necessary. These are our laws. And although Americans were still very angry, and some of them still are, we followed the rule of law, and today Japan is a vibrant democracy and a solid ally. 84 years later, this does not feel like a day of infamy. We are not their enemy. Ditto for the French, British, Spanish, Mexicans, Germans, Italians, Vietnamese, Iraqis, and Koreans, and everybody else that we've had a war with. But their leaders and ours have too often been enemies. Oddly enough, this brings us back to unity and peace. Leaders too often want to be rulers, and people are easier to rule and manipulate if they've been isolated or otherwise divided by things like distance, language, religion, propaganda, borders, armed guards, etc. United we stand, divided we fall. Who knew? Oh, wait a minute, it's written on our currency. Anyways, some of you might have noticed that I did not include race as a divider. That's because race is not necessarily divisive unless paired with some other means of separation. And this brings us directly to a young black man by the name of Edward Fry. Now, Ed Fry came to work one day in the laundry with me. Somebody had rotated out. They rotated him in. I was going to be there for about 3 months. And I think that anybody that's known me for 3.5 minutes knows that I'm an extrovert. So I started talking. I was going to get to know Seaman Fry. And I talked, and I talked. I told stories. I told jokes. He would not speak to me unless it was necessary, and he didn't look at me much either. Finally, even I wound down, and then we both just stood there in a laundry that was 120 degrees, sweated and moving laundry around. After about 2 weeks, Ed did start to talk. And what he said broke my heart. He said that the day that he walked into that laundry with me, as far as he knew, every white man hated it, every black man, and he felt like it sure as hell ought to be the other way around too. I was shocked. But then he started telling me stories, and I was shocked more. The first story he told was about how he was from a rural area somewhere in Alabama, and he and a bunch of other black kids were swimming and playing in a stream. And a group of white kids came up. Now, both groups were about the same age, you know, grade school and junior high school. But these white kids, they were built a lot heavier, stouter, and they had sticks with them. And they said, and I quote, "We ain't swimming in a creek with no niggers." And then they waded right into them and started beating them with sticks. And they were in the process of getting hurt, honestly hurt, whenever his cousin, who was 18 years old, came out of nowhere and plowed into them like a 500-pound lion plowing into a group of hyenas. And they scattered, and he and the other kids got away. Now, that's not the end of the story, because that evening, the sheriff and his deputy showed up at his cousin's house, and they handcuffed him, and they put him in the back of the car, and they were about to drive away. But Ed said his grandmother stood in front of that sheriff's car and would not move. Absolutely would not move. And she would not move because she knew that if they drove away with him, they were going to hang him, literally. And that's why he felt like he did when he walked into the laundry. And that's that story and a number of others. Like I said, I was shocked, but I wasn't stunned, and I started talking. And I said that was crazy that where I came from, which happens to be El Paso, Texas, white people and black people didn't have a problem with each other. As a matter of fact, our senior class president, Ron Johnson, was black. Oh, we elected him, and it had nothing to do with that. We elected him because he was a sparkling athlete, a straight A student, and just a plain good person. Incidentally, one time I asked Ed if he wanted to go down to the dock and play basketball with the rest of us. And he simply said, "We didn't have basketballs out in the woods." I can't imagine where Ed Fry is today, but I'm pretty sure that he does not hate all white men, and he knows that all white men did not hate him. He fit in and was a lot more comfortable from that day forward, and we talked to each other a lot. As a matter of fact, the two of us put a sign up on the wall in the ship's laundry that said, "Piss on the master's cotton." Yeah, and we kept it up there for whenever the captain and his entourage were coming through for a formal inspection. And I figured that Fry and myself, we were going to get at least an Article 15. And he said, "They're not going to say nothing." They walked in, and they all stopped and they looked at that sign. And finally, our executive officer said, "Well, I guess it means something to somebody." And they all turned and walked back out. United we stand. Until recent years, Americans were not exposed to constant, hard propaganda. This kind of propaganda works very well as an insulator and as a vehicle for conflict. I have an example, because I'm a history buff. 1 week before the Allies landed on the beaches of Normandy, a German journalist drove along the Atlantic defensive wall and interviewed German soldiers. As he went from unit to unit, he asked each and every soldier the very same question: "What are you fighting for?" Now, the officers all gave an assortment of vague answers, but the enlisted soldiers all gave the same answer in one form or another. They were defending Germany and Europe, wait for this, against British Freemasons and American bankers. 20 years later, his son, who was also a journalist, went around and he interviewed as many of these soldiers as he could. And they were embarrassed. And they said that they were busy fighting and did not know about the death camps. And I think that's believable. So as Unitarian Universalists who value love and unity, what are we to do? I suggest that we listen carefully to citizens who vote differently than we do if we are to enable love and unity. When they speak, listen carefully, and if possible, listen with love to these people who have different points of view. Are they beyond reach because they're filled with hate and obsessed with dominance? If so, they're out of reach. Or are they normal people who are confused by propaganda, like the Germans were? Or do they have a valid point that you should consider? Whatever you do, don't belittle them, or they may be forever lost to love and in turn to unity and in turn to democracy. Let the whole congregation say amen. Thank you.
Before our offering, I've been asked to share this joke with you. Military chaplain was going through a frontline hospital whenever he came upon two soldiers and noticed something was really strange. One was an American soldier, the other was a North Vietnamese soldier, and somehow it seemed like they knew each other, and they were both pretty much covered in plaster and bandages from head to foot. So he asked the American soldier, "Do you know him?" And the soldier said, "Well, yes. We were on opposite sides of a road shooting at each other whenever he yelled out, 'President Johnson is a freak.' And I yelled back, 'Ho Chi Minh is a loser.' Anyway, we were in the middle of the road, shaking hands and clapping each other on the back when a Jeep came around the corner and hit both of us." Okay, let's get back to this here. Okay, now is the time that we're going to participate in the financial care of our church community. And we will now receive the offering, and you can pay via Vanco, you can put a check or cash in an envelope, and we do have baskets, I hope. Thank you. The baskets will come around. You do not have to pass them. Just put your donation in, and we will listen to our music.
I think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness. And you may find a friend. one day, this man gave me a call. We sat and talked about things on our mind. Now this man, he is a friend of mine. Reach out in the darkness, reach out in the darkness, reach out in the darkness, and you may find a friend. I think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Don't be afraid of love. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to love. Listen to me. Everybody needs a little love. Everybody needs somebody that they can be thinking of. Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness, and you may find a friend. I think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together.
We extinguish this flame to remind us love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. When all we can see is cold ashes, love remains.
Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness. Reach out in the darkness, and you may find a friend. I think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together. Think it's so groovy now that people are finally getting together. Think it's wonderful and how that people are finally getting together.
Go in peace, my friends.
Would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you